Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. It's qualifier race number 2 of December. Time flies when you're having fun. My name's Matt Payne. I'm going to be bringing you all of the race action along with Emma Martin. Emma in the studio with me here again. This is going to be an absolute flyer, a busy month all the way, right the way through to our finals at the end of December. Some fantastic challenges coming up on MyWhoosh as well, but we're going to focus in on our racing here today and where we are heading, because we are heading to one of those very interesting and Marmite course that people either love or hate. It's the Outer Loop in Australia. Emma, is it a love it or hate it course for you?
Oh, I love it. It's great fun. 35 kilometres of racing in Australia, 593 metres of climbing, and 396 of that come on the Canberra climb at 15.3 kilometres into the race. It is the main segment on the race today. 5.4 kilometres in length, 7.6% average gradient, but I tell you, those steep steps along the way do kick, and at the very, very top, it does hit 16% under those wheels. Straight out of the start pens at 500 metres, there's a little kicker that catches people out. They're going to need to watch that. And there's 2 sprints along the way as well, the Sydney sprint and the Canberra sprint, and then that checkered flag at the 35-kilometre marker.
A really busy race, despite what looks to be a seemingly simple profile. Flat with one big hill in the middle. It's certainly not. Those bumps, as Emma said, can catch riders out. You've got that big depression coming after the Sydney sprint. You've got the little rise and fall. Lots of places to attack, lots of places maybe to make a difference and to do some damage to the opposition before you go away to take victory. 4 race categories taking to our race start, a staggered race start with our category 4 riders going off first. They're in red. They're our standard category right the way through to our elites in yellow. They're our last category to go. So category 4, our first set of riders to go. Now, this is a qualifier, so the prizes are for individual riders. No need to be in a team. Some of our riders like to represent their teams. A field of 10 different nations in our category 4 race, filled with riders from Colombia, Australia, Italy, Canada, Brazil, New Zealand, Sweden, the United Arab Emirates, Poland, Thailand, a real mix of nations, UK as well, in there, taking to our start line. This is the first wave of riders away. The clock counts down to 0, and then we are going to head off on to the course. We come out of the pens, we make our way, and we take a left-hand turn, and then we're onto that little kicker. Watch out for it. Emma said it. I've said it. Don't say you weren't warned. It's time to go racing. It's the Sunday Race Club. It's qualifier race number 2. It's time to go hit the streets here in Australia and take our race route all the way up to the heights of the top of the Canberra climb before dropping back down to our finish. Emma, Nikki Lloyd in here, one of our probably one of the most regular riders we have on Sunday Race Club, and we've got a lot of regular riders.
Well, alongside Natalia Idzik and Bridget Bremner, I would probably say yes, but Isabel Alzat has been here a long, long time as well. In fact, a lot of these Category 4 women, week in, week out, they are on the Sunday Race Club as they come out of the start pen, take that left-hand turn. And for those of you new to the Sunday Race Club, on the top right-hand corner of the screen, that is the graphic that will give you the gradient that is coming and the parkour that is ahead. You can see the climb straight out of the start pens. They're at 400 metres, and away goes Jessica Hamilton because she knows what is coming, and she knows this is the key point in the first 15 kilometres where you can drop people off the back of the group.
And that's what we're seeing, riders having to scramble to get back into the wheels. Now, if you're new to the Sunday Race Club, maybe you've been watching some of the racing, and just want a little bit of clarification. The rider that we are featuring, not only is their name across the centre of the screen, they're highlighted in blue on the right-hand side in the table of the riders and where they are relative to each other. So you can see that Natalia Idzik in the blue, currently sitting in the 6th position, and above her and below those riders moving as she moves around. You can see the chevrons on the right-hand side showing just how hard the riders are working. We often have our in-person picture, the IPP. There you are.
Oh, he's got an acronym
for it. It's an IPP. It's an in-person picture, and that is Natalia Idzik in real life, in person, in I'm just going to do a double check. If it is that light in Poland, they are way ahead of us. I'm not quite sure
They are
where
an
in the
hour
world.
ahead of the
They
UK.
are ahead of the UK, so it may well be daylight there. We're here, I must admit, the Full Speed
Well, it
Event
obviously
Studios.
is daylight here. There.
Well, it is daylight wherever she is. Whether she's in Poland, I'm not so sure. But I have to say that it is dark here where we are, partly because we are in the studios, bringing you the race coverage
I'm
here.
sorry,
There
but
are no windows.
It's always dark in the studio.
You can see Nikki Lloyd on the screen. So Nikki out and pedaling. And Nikki's stats and the rider's stats that you're watching are top and centre on the screen. The watts, if they're in white, it means the rider is in the win. If they are in green, it means that they're taking shelter behind another rider.
Well, I'll take a look at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Nikki Lloyd is there, but so is the stretch on that Category 4 group. And I think we're going to see two groups form unless those back markers can get on to this group quickly. And it's looking like the break is going to be around. Oh, it's Gentili who's struggling to get onto the group in 14th place. Jessica Hamilton, who took the push on the front of the pack in 16th. She's going to have to squeeze to get on. So is Narvaez. But I think Hamilton, come on, Hamilton. Jessica Hamilton can make it.
This is a doable thing, and I mean there's some experienced riders there. Zabala, another rider who is very experienced, pushing at nearly 4 watts per kilo. Tangulon also the same. Flores, will they be able to get back? Going to need to keep squeezing. Each rider represented by a red dot on the screen.
Well, Jessica Hamilton joined me on one of the live coaching sessions this week. Always great fun to have our Sunday Race Club riders drop in and say hello and take part in those live coaching sessions that do obviously operate Monday through to Friday. More coaches available than just me, but I am around Monday, Wednesday and Thursday should you wish to join me. And Jessica did indeed join us this week.
Well, good to see that Jessica was out and training. Now, Emma, just before we start moving across, do you have a rundown of our top 3 riders last week?
Oh, I do.
You've got to be super speedy with this one because we were about to head to Category 3. So Category 4 top 3s.
Well, Category 4 top 3 in California last week. It was Gina DeGracia who's moved up to Category 3. It was Camilla Zaluga who's moved up to Category 3. And Emma Sonnerson, who is remaining in Category 4.
So 2 of our riders moving up to Category 3 who are on the start line. The Gear Goddesses racing for their team. That's Danny Giraldo and Catherine Tompkinson. The Grind My Gear squad. Angel Ann Hadlock victorious yesterday. We got Novelinka Conan, Stephanie Piccolo and Tanya Howiles. That's the Grind My Gear squad. Golden Light representing Team Golden Light. If you want to get a shout out, make sure that you get your team name in. We try and mention everybody who's representing a team on the Sunday Race Club because those teams are key supporting the riders out there. Category 3 about to head out. The green for go is up. The Category 3 riders leaving the pen. And the moment of that go, you need to be accelerating up. You need to be really ramping that power and getting out fast. You don't want to be fighting for the wheels at this stage. You want to be tucked into that pack. Burning energy now is going to be difficult later on. We're in with Gina DeGrazia, a rider, Emma, last week, who was on absolute fire.
Well, she was indeed, but last week, Gina DeGrazia had been moved down to Category 4 at the start of the month, and she put in such a dominant performance last week. She's back up to Category 3.
Yeah.
So DeGrazia part and parcel of the pack. Giraldo, Chizekowicz, Vasquez, all there. Tompkinson here today, as well as Gina Van Rossum. The 2 Ginas, Gina DeGrazia, Gina Van Rossum, both in Category 3.
And Karolina Chizekowicz was racing last night if you were on UK time. Obviously, other time zones are available around the world.
Yeah, it was
but I know Carolina is actually based in the UK. So Karolina Chizekowicz, a rider who was racing yesterday on the Echelon Racing League Community races, and good to see her on the bike again on the Sunday Race Club, one of our real regulars again, and
just
really
proving
established.
It's dark outside in the UK.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carolina, and the production team for showing that it is actually really dark in the UK, even though in Poland it is light. They are a little bit further to the east, so the sun comes up earlier. That's kind of how it works with us working our way round the sun.
well, Holly Bergen on the front of the pack at the moment, pushing on the climb, and they really are pushing in category 3 at the moment, and trying to do some damage on this climbing section. They've gone up through the set part that is at 7%, just coming off now as they come to the top at the 1 kilometre marker. And we've definitely got breaks in this group. We saw breaks in the category 4 group. We're going to see breaks in the category 3 group. And I think this is going to have done more damage here than potentially we may have thought. So multiple riders going off the back of the group. And if they are not careful, we're going to see the large group at the front split as well. Those back markers are going to have to push and push strongly to get back on. A bit like Jessica Hamilton had to do in category 4.
So Jessica Hamilton in category 4, just coming in through the Sydney sprint at 4.2k. Each of these sprints mean that the riders are able to pick up points if they're in the top 5. If you take the win, you take 5 points, right down to 1 point for 5th place. It's the fastest time through the sprint that counts. The sprint here today, 300 meters, so a long sprint distance for the riders, not just a very short, sharp snap. It's a little bit of a longer and more sustained effort. If you get enough points, well, if you're the leading point scorer, you are wearing those green skin suits, irrespective of what category you're in. If you're the fastest in your category, you will get that green skin suit, and we can just see. I think it's literally changing the split of a second to Nicky Lloyd. There you go. It's fast as a blink of an eye, and there could still be changes because riders can come through behind. It's the fastest time through the segment. And if you're in a bunch, it's generally fastest if you go from the back to the front, make the most of the draft.
Well, I can tell you 17 riders in the leading group in category 4 as they've gone through that sprint section, and they've got a significant gap now because you can see the riders behind not through that section yet.
So the riders coming in through, just taking a look on the left-hand side of our screen at Angelica Alta Marino. 8th place yesterday in the community races on the Echelon Racing League. And currently took nicely in the category 3 bunch at 2.4k. The category 4 bunch at 5k. But we're going to head across, as Emma is just exclaiming,
to the polka dots. It's like a line of blue polka dots on the category 3 picture.
i.e. they are strung out, spread out, and ready to have to do some serious chasing by the look of it already. We're in with category 2. Now, once again, our riders riding individually. 14 nations: Colombia, Denmark, Sweden, Poland, Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, the Philippines, South Africa, the UK, Hong Kong, Iran, and Italy, along with Lithuania, making up that list of 14 nations in category 2. So category 2, the penultimate step 2 are elite categories, and the penultimate wave away, i.e. the next to last. We're in with Kate McLeod on that start line as the clock ticks down. Qualifier race number 2. In December, there are 4 qualifiers, 1 final. Everybody wants to be in that final. Our riders in category 2, up and away. A big packed start list. One very interesting fact in here is that there is a rider on our start list that I could potentially be commentating on twice today.
Really?
Yes.
Come on then.
Dana Wagner of Germany, one of our regulars in category 2. He's down on the start list, on the entry list for this race, but also for the UCI Cyclocross World Cup in Sardinia, in Cabras, which is happening later on today. I would be incredibly impressed, stroke mildly amazed, stroke incredulous if she's going to race both of them. It'd be an interesting leg opener, though, wouldn't it? That's an interesting thought.
Well, you know, we do see riders at World Championships and World Cups warming up on yeah, indeed. And but Dana Wagner, I think today will indeed be focusing on that race in Sardinia if she is there.
Well, we will see. Both share coastlines, Sardinia and Cabras, along with the coastline here in Australia on the outer loop, although our riders heading a lot further inland and travelling potentially a lot further distance.
Though I do need to, whilst we're talking about Dana Wagner, congratulate her because she did indeed take the Cyclocross Masters World Championships in Hamburg last week in the 40 to 40 4-year age category. And I can tell you something, I've ridden and raced the Cyclocross Masters World Championships, and they are fast. And the women racing in the 40 to 44 category regularly top 5 in their nation's elite categories. So that is no mean feat.
It is, and it's one of those things. The older you get, not only the faster you were, but particularly in my case, but you also have more experience, more skills. You've got that knowledge you've built up and accumulated, generally more strength. So it does make a difference. Having the tactical now is really key. One rider who we know has that is Ursula Cassani. She's a very smart rider.
She's still up in her warm-up jersey.
She's still got the jacket on because it's still cold, but that's really good because...
Yep, smart.
Yep, I know I often say my dad always used to say that the first hill of the day was the hardest, i.e. this little kicker that we've just gone over. But he also used to say that you should be cold for the first 10 minutes of your ride.
No,
because
stay
if
warm,
you are,
stay
no,
warm.
because if you are the first 10 minutes on the bike, you would then get to the right temperature. Now it could be that here comes the jacket. Has now started to warm up the kicker over the hill, and they're getting up and running. We've got to remember, of course, that there are riders out and around the world in lots of different locations. And for some of our riders, it's the middle of the night. It's the early hours of the morning. It could be that you've done an all-nighter straight the way out and straight back onto the bike again. It could well be that you are in the middle of the day, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us, whether you are riding or viewing. Do make sure you subscribe if you're watching. Hit that button. Back to the racing. It is splitting, Emma. It is two very distinct groups on the road at the moment. Sophie Giovanni in that leading group.
Well, it is indeed, but it's a big group on the front in this category 2 pack at the moment. And Vittori, Embring, Hill, Yaramillo, McLeod, Prado, well, all in this group. Really interesting to see. It's a big, big group on the road. And it's a big group in Category 3 as well, because Category 3 have just gone through the sprint section. And I've got 25 riders. It's going to be really interesting to double check that at a later date in this race. But at the moment, this is one big group in Category 2. They've just lost 1 or 2 riders off the back. And I can tell you, yep, it's 2. Lamcong and Van der Ville are the 2 riders distanced off the back of the group, caught out on that first climb.
And if you are maybe not wanting to push quite as deep, that first climb is going to be a very early separator. Let's see if it separates our Category 1 riders out. This is a packed field now. We have 12 nations represented in Category 1. We also have our teams here. Ablock International with Lisa Hermansen, Maria Holcroft, Mika Soderstrom. The Effetto Skier Squad. And that is Amelia Van Hove, Francesca Tomasi, Joanna Kalman, Carolina Kolowitz, and Roberto Bersoni. The Sweat Sensations, Amelia Veltz, Catherine Vermeer Bruni. The Thundercats, Gabby Guerra, Kristen Korchinski, Marlon Bjarhead, and Celine Colombi. Those are the riders in teams of the race field. It's just about 2/3 in teams here today. It's time to start the final wave away. Category 1 on Qualifier 2 on the Sunday Race Club. Let's go racing.
Right away from the start pen go the Category 1 riders. The yellow jerseys sweeping out of the pen and onto the course very, very quickly. They'll be taking the left-hand bend at the end of the bridge and out onto that early climb. Guerra is in here, Stevens, Rona, Kalman, Larson, Van Shaw is here as well. These riders taking that left-hand turner, and they are out on to the section heading towards the climb. Now, congratulations to Lisa Hermansen, who won the sprint from Liz Van Hooling yesterday in that Echelon Racing League Elite Women's race. It was fabulous. They held us right until the finish. Johanna Tidholm was outstanding in that race, and a well-deserved 3rd place for her.
And I have to say, I agree with your comments. Emma was on commentary for duty for that one, and Emma gave the most aggressive as well. I'm going to sum it up with one word: combativity. The Combativity Award. I'm an old school cyclist. I like Combativity Awards. Combativity Award, I would agree 100% with you. And if it had been down to me to cast my vote, a bit like Strictly Dancing Style, if you've been watching the series, got to admit, it's my guilty pleasure.
Strictly Come Dancing does indeed exist elsewhere around the globe,
but
obviously under slightly different names.
I have to admit, it is my guilty pleasure. But in the style of the judges, of Dame Shirley, had it come down to me, to put the deciding vote on that, I would have given that combativity award to Joanna Tidholm as well, because she was amazing.
Well, I can tell you this race is amazing at the moment because they're nearly at the top of that first climb. And other than one rider just distance out of the start pen, not necessarily on the climb, this pack all together, and not unexpected in this Category 1 women's race. This is often what does take place. Cornelia Engström on our screen. You can see her up and out the saddle, fan rolling, big screen in front of her. She's part and parcel of the pack with Megan Stevens. Merle Bruni is here. Bruni's taken a win on this course before. In fact, she took the win back in Qualifier 2 in April, sub 1 hour that day. And this course, indeed, in fact, Bruni's taken 2 wins here. She took the win in April, she took the win in March. She was on some form then. Catherine Fu has also taken a win here. Kristen Kolchinsky's taken a win. Lou Bates has taken a win as well. So a wide range of women taking the win in Category 1 on this course this year.
It's one of those courses, isn't it, where there's so many different ways to ride. It suits so many different riders. It really, really is telling, isn't it, that because so many people can take the win here, because you can take the win if you're a climber, you can be smart if you're a sprinter, you can put your power down, and the way that the climb is stepped as well makes a difference.
Oh, it does indeed, and great to see Guerra back in the USA, and fabulous to have her back on the Sunday Race Club as well, and help and support in the room as well, which I'm sure she is now welcoming back rather than riding in that garage where she was in the deep dark dungeons. But fabulous to have her on board today and in the mix.
I've missed Nathan's random hand wave on the camera. Hi, Nathan. So good to see the team, the dream team with of the Guerras back together again. We will see whether Gabby can translate this. International travel does do damage to you, doesn't it? And I think this is one of the things.
Some people travel better than others.
Are you speaking from experience there?
Yes.
Would you any particular examples you'd like to give?
I don't race well on being tired. Other people I know do. But Alzat, Sonesson, Idzik are the 3 riders at the front of the Category 4 race at the moment. Arias is there as well as Lopez. And it's looking like we've got 6 riders now pushing on at the 10.7 marker. They're coming out of the underwater tunnel. It's not a categorized climb, but it does, as you can see, stretch the group. And you can definitely tell that on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Alzat Valencia, you can see in the mix here, part and parcel of this leading group. And Simone Francis is the rider with Bridget Bremner. You can see just distanced off the back. Now, this would be an interesting move if we saw 6 riders break away here before the climb. It really is the last section before they get to the Canberra climb, where any damage. I know, there's too many A's. Any damage can be done to the group.
Well, yeah, that was quite a quick agreement, really, for me.
Well, nothing wrong with agreement. And on the left-hand side of your screen, it's the Category 3 race. And they're at 9.3 kilometres. The group very steady going into those underwater tunnel areas. They've dropped down. They are on the underwater section. You can see on the top right-hand corner, they're shortly to start the climb out, which is where the Category 4 riders are now exiting. So on either side of your screen, you can see the bottom of that climb and the top of that climb. And you can see the damage done, actually, to that Category 4 pack on that shot. Category 3, it's looking like we've got a group of strong riders. Hyde, De Grazia, Altamirano in there. Barragan is in there as well as Vasquez. But it's looking like a fairly substantial group. It's going to be interesting to see what the climb does to Category 3.
So Category 3 just making their way out from the underwater tunnels. They will be on to our main climb. Just in with Joanna Kalman, one of our regular riders. We say that about a lot of our riders now. Riders coming back week in, week out here in Category 1. Very strong rider. A course that potentially could suit Kalman here today. Be really interested to see how she goes on here, because it's not a course that suits everybody. Oh, I'm loving the Vuvuzela. That is quality. The Vuvuzela in the background.
Class.
It is. And
do you know what's funny?
Yes,
you actually even know the terminology and name for that apparatus.
Do you know how I know that? Do you really want to know how I know
Not really.
that? Because
But I think you're going to tell us the story.
well, there are two reasons. One is it was the instrument of choice in Dublin at last week's cyclocross World Cup. And would you
Ah,
believe the Irish were playing more vuvuzelas than I've seen anywhere, except for at one of the Olympic Games that I worked on, where I spent the entire time listening to vuvuzelas to the point where I couldn't hear them anymore.
do you know my musical instrument of choice at a bike race? Cowbells.
Okay, bit more difficult to get onto screen than a vuvuzela, but yes, I do like a cowbell every now and then
Yeah.
to cheer the riders on. Definitely, particularly the really big ones that you can shake. One rider that knows all about that when you're out and racing is going to be anybody who is out there from Switzerland. So Fua would be there. It is a very Swiss tradition of cowbells that has translated across into cycling. So for some random reason. Don't ask me why. Somebody tell me the history on @ManFixThePain, please, on Instagram. Back to
Well,
the sprint. Come
yeah,
on.
the Sydney sprint. Mel Bruni setting the fastest time from the Sweat Sensations, 26 seconds, 0.625. Femke van der Wiele in category 2 going through. God, look at that. Exactly the same time. That's phenomenal. Then we've got the pack of category 1 riders headed by Guerra, McCarthy, Eck, Columbi, Engstrom, Larson, Kulczynski, and BR Head rounding out the top 10.
Now in with Bill Bruni, just chasing down Kulczynski and Megan Stevens. Good to see Megan Stevens here racing, currently just sitting on the wheel of a country woman who now takes to the
This
front
is an
here.
interesting move here.
This is a dangerous move. Now, Krista Kulczynski is a rider who can climb, but she likes a really long, tough climb. What a lot of the riders will do is try and put lots of early attacks in, stretch out, increase the length of the effort required, even if it is not on a climb, because that is simulating that effort. Now, just seeing this extra push here, Emma, this I think is a dangerous move. Guerra moves to the front here. She's starting to take a look at this. She doesn't want to let this go. So is Tomasi, who was really good last week.
Last week on the Sunday Race Club.
In with a
Finished
bang.
in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Really class rider. But this is really interesting now because both Kulczynski and Bruni have won on this course. So they know exactly what it takes for a win. And Megan Stevens being part of this 3-up breakaway at the moment. McCarthy now starting to come across, and I tell you something, she's going to tow the rest of the group because Guerra's just put in a huge dig at 9 watts per kilo to close it down the gap.
And I think this is Megan Stevens' first Sunday Race Club race. I'm not 100% certain, but it's looking like it may well be. I'm going to get a double check from Emma, who's going through her records. I've gone through mine, but certainly at the moment looking very strong at the minute. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at the front of this, going up over onto the bridge, and you can just see the pressure that's going on. It's causing the rest to react. Stevens, Kulczynski, McCarthy, Guerra, a who's who of racing at the front. Tomasi now at 2 seconds. So is X, so is Hermansen, Filensky. They've got to start making that move across 2 seconds. It's enough to be out of the draft. The draft is about 10 meters long. So if you're within about 10 meters of the bike in front, that's about 3 bike lengths on the way through. 3 to 4 bike lengths generally is the optimum distance you want to be. Any further than that, you start to run into the risk of coming off the back. Now, the group makes it. The bunch reforms. Kelsey Jade Van Shaw in the mix. But Amelia Van Hove, 3 seconds back now, 4 seconds back. That's going to be a difficult gap to make up. We're going into the descent. She needs to push into the downhill section. The pace picks up. Accelerating, putting in the power. We said this time and time again on Sunday Race Club coverage. You've got to push over the top. You've got to build momentum into the descent to maximize the speed on the way down. It's not about getting around the corners. It's about using the terrain, using the gradient to your advantage. Absolutely key here. Cornelia Engstrom tucked into this group as well. Bjarhead has made the group. The gap to Van Hove now out to 6 seconds. Not looking like that's going to be an easy catch. Van Hove now up to 4 watts per kilo, trying to come back. She has a chance when the pack slows and hits the base of this descent, and she's coming down. That distance will come down, and if she kicks in, she may well be able to carry just that little bit more momentum, but her fate, it's in that bunch's hands. Meanwhile, just in front, you can see that category 2 on the right-hand side of your screen, they are ascending out from this same underground area through the underwater tunnels and making the way up from that deep depression up on to the climb at 10.4k. This is the leading group. They have shed riders. There are riders being distanced. The selection is being made again.
Okay, it is indeed. And I'm just going to give a nod to Matt because Megan Stevens, I didn't agree with you because she was on the start sheets last week, but she didn't take to the start line.
There you go.
There you go. So it is indeed her first start line appearance while she was on those start sheets last week. Just check through the results from last week just to make sure she wasn't on there. No, she wasn't, which is why I balked at your idea it was her first race.
But she could have raced and not finished, but then
no, she
be
didn't.
a DNF.
She would
did not finish.
Did not finish exactly, but she isn't. And category 4 riders, well, take a look at that. That's the polka dot banner signifying the Canberra climb. They're at 15.3 kilometres into this race, and Bremner back on the group. We saw her distanced. Really great to see. Nikki Lloyd a little bit further back at 30 seconds. She's in 10th position. This group contains 9 riders. So 9 riders in category 4 going into the Canberra climb together. Now, this is a stepped climb, 3 real discrete steps on the climb with flats and potentially, or not potentially, there is even downhill sections on this climb. So there is some room for respite or for groups to roll back together again.
And I think very interesting how these riders approach this, because this is a long climb. The Canberra climb in category 4 women's race, the course record at the moment 23:33. Now that has been held since July 2023 by Carla Leonor. In fact, the fastest time this year in 2024 is from June 2024, and that's Georgina Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
And that could say a lot about how this racing is going to go. In the listing, you've got Lenore, Alze, De Silva, Delisay, Joy Miller, Gentili, Vink, Hawila, Hyde, Vasquez, Bremner, Simkin, Frastis, and De Grazia. So it gives you an idea who's going to be up there and going well.
What is going well at the moment is this category 1 race for Francesca Tomasi. Now, we saw her last week, and that last week was indeed her very first Sunday race club. Tomasi, the Italian rider who we were talking about last week, 37th in the Giro d'Italia Donna this year. We knew she was class when she joined the Sunday race club last week, and now she is trying to go off the front here. She's had her day last week testing it out, seeing how it runs. Today she is taking it by the scruff of the neck.
I'd like to test it out and come night.
Well, I know. See, I told you.
That is class. You could get on a bike and ride. There are some people who can get on and are going to be competitive. And when you are of that class, world class, in any discipline, it's going to transfer. But you do need to learn those different disciplines.
Well, you do. And I can tell you, she'll get better and better and better. And that, I think, is really interesting.
That wants to be worrying for everybody else.
Well, it was McCarthy who closed down the gap. The world champion closes down the gap and comes onto Tomasi's wheel. And she brings the rest of the group with her. So, Kolchinsky, Bruni, Columbi, Larson, Guerra are all there. McCarthy at the head of the race, and just 1 or 2 riders now starting to have to push. Megan Stevens needing to close down the gap, and Jenny Eck, Amelia Velt just on the back of the group. They just need to squeeze and push. It is steep at the moment. It's 5.2% at the moment. They're coming towards the top of the climb out from the underwater tunnels. Just going past one of the back markers in the category 3 race.
And that's the great beauty of having riders off in front of our category when we get to see our category 2, 3 and 4 as they get picked up on the way through. Lots of great racing, and do jump on board whatever ability level you are. There's loads of great racing on MyWhoosh. You can come in and join and get to see these riders in action. McCarthy, Guerra, Bruni really squeezing on here with Golczynski. Tomasi has to answer this with Larson, but they have to choose how they answer this. Do you put a sprint and bridge across?
Yes.
And or do you squeeze gently up there and then work as a group to bring that back? How far do you let them go?
You don't.
You would not let them go
unless you can't do anything about it.
The problem is, though, you dig deep. You dig really, really deep to bring that back. You get on the back wheel, and the moment you hit the next rise, you're in trouble. Yes, it's a little bit of distance away, but you can't afford to be in that position, can you? It's going to really, really struggle. Category 1, left-hand side, trying to answer. Category 3, we've just seen, hitting the climb. Just to give you some reference, Category 4, when on the Canberra climb, record is 23:33, as we said. The Category 3 riders, course record on the same climb, 22:08. That is Barco Ossa, who holds that course record. Again, set in July 2023. The fastest time this year, that was set in June, and that was set by Philippa Hill, the all-conquering Philippa Hill in Category 3. Absolutely phenomenal riding by her. Now, Category 1, having to make some choices and having to make them fast. Nellie Larson, Celine Columbi, Bridget Vilensky, along with Kelsey Jade Van Shaw, Francesca Tomasi, Lisa Hermansen. They all have to choose. The entire pack here need to choose. It's 17 seconds. 17 seconds on the gap at the moment. Big gap opened up at the front. It's quarter of a minute gone. This is disappearing down the road. The top 4 positions are on the move. Make a move. Get up there quick or lose out.
Well, it is, and dangerous coming out from those underwater tunnels. The 4 riders at the front of the Category 1 race: Golczynski, Guerra, Bruni and McCarthy. You couldn't really get a better group.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure I'd agree with that one. It's a very, very good group, it has to be said. Could you get a better group? I don't know. I always think that because you've got 5 away, 5 riders means that you have got the places filled. When you've got the points places filled, everybody behind has racing for places. They're not racing for 5th place and prize money, and I think that just means that they just back off that a little bit more. So fill the prize spaces with your breakaway. 5 riders rather than 4 would be my choice on there, particularly given how long it is from the top of the Canberra climb to the finish, 14.3k.
Wow.
So Gin Van Rossum on the screens here, and currently trying to break clear, trying to push on. The gap has opened up behind. There are riders distance. Van Rossum, though, with Bergin, Piccolo, Altamirano, Elos, Hyde and Co. on this climb. We know Hyde goes well. We've seen her name in the top 10 of riders on the climb. They are currently at 16.3k. They are chasing the leaders in Category 4, who are coming up to another of those platforms on the way up. As I indicated earlier, this is a stepped climb. There are 3 risers. Those are the bits that go up. There are 2 treads on the way up and 1 tread at the summit. So the flat bit you put your foot on. Those are actually the official descriptions of parts of a stair.
Yeah.
The risers, first riser, big tread follows, big flat section with a little bit of downhill. Second tread, lot smaller. The summit, almost as small. It is very, very minimal amounts of space where you're on the flat. You've got the chance to get back to the group before the gradient changes again. You've got to use this course to your advantage. You've got to know where and when to push. Left-hand side of your screen, you can see the Category 3 riders squeezing up this climb. The riders being represented by dots, blue dots for Category 3, red dots for Category 4, and so on. The Category 4 leaders are up the road, but Category 3 are moving fast today.
Well, Category 3 are moving fast, and it's Bergin and Altamirano, Piccolo and Van Rossum who are at the front of the group, and they're climbing really, really strongly now, working their way through the Category 4 race that started 5 minutes ahead of them. You can see on the top right-hand corner of your screen the step that is coming. going. They're at 9.9% at the moment on the riser. And it is indeed Holly Bergin who's taken to the fore of this Category 3 race. Stefani Piccolo on her wheel. In fact, Piccolo now coming round. Piccolo, we know, a phenomenal climber and really, really excels on the longer climbs. Angelica Altamarino is there as well. Bergin, Van Rossum, Bonilla. The pack is moving. And you can see the tail now on this Category 3 race as they really settle in to climbing the Canberra climb.
Bergin's time up here, 23 minutes 59 seconds. A good time up here. Piccolo's fastest time, 23 minutes 25 seconds, as is Angel Hadlow's. Identical times up this climb. Really interesting how close the racing is up here. And when those riders set those times, quite critical as well. Depends on who is out and around the riders at the same time. Some really, really quick times up here. Do not discount Piccolo on this climb.
No.
But what she has to do is she needs to shed some of those riders who maybe have got a slightly quicker kick on there. Now, Category 2 are on the right-hand side of your screen. They have hit this climb as well. The Category 2 times are very, very quick up here. They're at 16K, so they're already 700 meters in. The leading group's starting to fracture. Now, 23:33 was the fastest Category 4 time, 22:08 the fastest Category 3 time, the fastest Category 2 time set by Serena Vittori, who we know is a fantastic climber. You wait for this, 20 minutes and 4 seconds set in May of this year, Qualifier 3. Absolutely phenomenal time up there. And the same of Kasani, only 1 second behind Penna, who's moved to Category 1, Hermansen, who's moved to Category 1. Lots of very quick riders up this climb.
Well, this Category 2 pack, 28 riders going into the base of the climb together. At that 15.3 kilometre mark, they had not dropped many riders at all. And Julia Montgomery, part and parcel of the pack, they're now forming 2 groups on the climb. Montgomery, part and parcel of Group 1 with Gonzalez, Ruiz, Giovanni, Jaramillo is there as well as Svardström, Vittori and Beltran. Julia Walkenhurst finding herself towards the back of the group. Sarah Lundin just in the danger zone at the moment. You can see the second half of the pack down the road as this pack continue to climb and continue to climb strongly.
They do. Julia Montgomery really reveling, I'm sure, in the fact that she's got the 5th fastest time up this climb of anybody in history in her category. In Category 2. Category 1, though, well, they are on the way into that same climb.
Look
Category
at the gap.
1, the gap has opened, then it has come down. It went to 17, nearly 20 seconds. It's gone back down. It's been almost half coming into the climb, but are the riders saving their energy? Fastest time up here, 16 minutes 50 seconds for Fua. The leaders board, Fua, Bruni, Coyston and Bates, Kuczynski, Velt, Columbi, Bassoni, Menendez, Olsen and Sanchez in that order.
Well, 4 riders out in front in Category 1. The chase group now 7 seconds back. They are well and truly in sight of the group ahead. But who is going to now stretch here? The group ahead, Kuczynski, McCarthy, Bruni and Guerra, 8 seconds ahead of the group being led by Larson. In fact, Larson pushing on at the front. The gap now down to 7. Will any of those riders in the group behind close the gap to these leading 4? But the climbing abilities of these 4 in this group, absolutely world class, and I'm just expecting them to extend the gap now as Kuczynski comes to the front. McCarthy picks up the mantle. It is going to be a tight race up this climb, I think, but Nelly Larson really pushing on here at the front of the group, and Francesca Tomasi is the rider also pushing. It's going to be interesting to see her climbing skills here over this Canberra climb. It's 5.4 kilometres in length with an average gradient of 7.6%. Well, can Tomasi just close this gap down and get back on? It's going to be interesting to see the new rider's skill set.
It is, and that's one of those great things that we see when we go from course to course and we go from different parkour to different parkour. We see that different terrain, testing the riders, showcasing their abilities, showcasing their talents. Don't forget, all of our riders need your support. Make sure you give them a follow on Instagram, on social media. The more you support them, the more that they can put their efforts into getting out there and riding, training, and putting on these amazing performances. Now, at the very front of the race, we saw Kulczynski tapping out a rhythm at 6 watts per kilo plus. She's back hitting that marker, but she's got Guerra McCarthy all there with Bruni. It is a who's who, the top 4 riders, the entire breakaway riders who were racing so hard in the World Championships, the first in-person finals with all of the competitors in that finals in the same place in Abu Dhabi. And of course, MyWhoosh, the UCI partner for esports in 2024, 25, and 26.
Well, Category 1 on the left-hand side of your screen, and Tomasi is desperately trying to close that gap down. But on the right-hand side of your screen, this is the leading group in Category 3, Altamirano, Piccolo, Van Rossum, Vasquez, and Bonilla. And they have worked their way into the top 10 on the road. Now, the Category 4 race was the first race underway today. Category 3 started 5 minutes behind. Category 2, 10 minutes behind them. And Category 1, 15 minutes behind. The top 6 riders on the road still are indeed from that Category 4 race. But this pack of Category 3 riders and the riders not far back off their wheels really working strongly.
And we've got an attacking Category 1 here. Kate McCarthy now moving 7.3 watts per kilo, being chased by Gabby Guerra. And it looks to me like Merle Bruni and Kristen Kulczynski are struggling to go with the pace of the current world champion. McCarthy on the move. Guerra answering this. This is a big move. The summit of the climb is at 20.7k. We then got 14.3k to the finish. Kate McCarthy is starting to go clear. Solo 16.8 kilometers covered.
Well, she is indeed, and it's a really big push. Guerra trying to respond on the climb. She's pushing on. Bruni and Kulczynski now getting dropped. Tomasi is the rider pulling up from behind, but the gap now back to Tomasi at 30 seconds.
So Guerra into trying to chase onto the wheel of McCarthy. This is critical. You can see Gabby Guerra there out of the saddle, stamping down on those pedals. The towel there over the bars, protecting the bike. This is key. Put the pressure on. Keep the rhythm tapped out. Make sure you know what you've got to do. Watch that gap. Keep that data coming in, all whilst riding, putting in a world-class performance here. Bruni at 8 seconds. And you can see how closely matched these riders are in terms of power, how big those gaps have opened and how quickly.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because McCarthy now coming to the flatter section here on the climb. Guerra still on the steeper section behind. But McCarthy continuing to push. And you know, the power profiles of these two riders really, really interesting. McCarthy, when she kicks just that little bit higher than Guerra, but Guerra continues to work. And at the moment, McCarthy now coming off of the power slightly. Guerra still on it. You can see McCarthy just taking a small amount of respite, 3.5, 3.9 watts per kilo. Guerra continuing to push, but the gap at 10 seconds. Merle Bruni a further 8 or 9 seconds back. Kulczynski again even further. I tell you, one of the riders who is riding strongly, and that is Francesca Tomasi. And I'm wondering whether she's going to make a top 5 this week or whether Nelly Larsen is going to beat her to it.
Presuming, of course, which is a good presumption, that these 4 stay clear, because we have seen riders go back and get caught, particularly if they're solo. If these 4 leaders go over the top in ones, individually, or 1s and 2s as a maximum, and behind you've got 2, 3, 4 riders, the advantage in terms of draft, in terms of people to take on the work, is with the group behind, with the bigger
because,
group.
You know, let's just refer back to the Outer Loop course. The top of the Canberra climb comes at 20.7 kilometres. It's a 14.3 kilometre run from that highest point to the finish line. And it is pretty much downhill or flat the entire way to the checkered flag. And we do indeed see, exactly as you say, Matt, groups coming together, moving very, very quickly with the momentum on those flatlands and sweeping up the ones and twos ahead of them. And we even get to the point where we see later starting categories start to sweep up the back of the previous starting race, and it really does come down to a point of those riders desperate to stay in. Well, I'll tell you who's desperate to stay clear at the moment, and that's the top 5 riders in the Category 4 race, because Narvaez, Sonesson and Idzik are at the head of the Category 4 race. Lopez and Alzat are just off the back of the group, and when I say just, 3 seconds for Lopez, 6 seconds for Alzat. They're at the 19.4 kilometre marker. They've got around 1.2 kilometres of this climb left, and it is so steep at the moment, at 12% under their wheels. The Category 3 pack being led by Piccolo and Van Rossum, now coming up onto the back of the wheels of the top 3, and I think Stefani Piccolo is just going to go straight over the top.
It's so tough when you get caught by a group behind, and yet you've got to focus and think, this is an opportunity for me. You've got to be positive about it and go, this is an opportunity. This is a chance for me to jump in, to take the most. But the problem is that the power of a rider, if you've been caught for a reason.
You've got to be so careful, because the Category 3 leaders are the leaders in the category above you.
Yep.
You know, there is the desperate microsecond burst of jump on the wheel. But if you do that, you are so likely to blow, and you just have to settle into your own rhythm and accept that you are racing the riders in your category. You are not racing the riders going past you. And Gemma Daniels, Kim Bonilla, Angelica Altamirano, Gina Van Rossum, Manuela Vasquez and Stefani Piccolo, the 6 riders of category 3 who have gone past the leaders of category 4. Well, those category 4 riders just need to not jump on.
Category 3 leading up the climb. They've gone clear. They've headed up the slopes. There is one rider who has just struggled to have gone through. You can see at the moment they've got to get back on to the group. Categories 3 and 4 exchanging places at the front of the race. Category 2, though, are coming. They're not that far behind.
No, they're not.
19.2k. The summit is at 20.7 kilometres. The Category 2 leaders, Gonzalez Road Nordin, along with Giovanni and Giannatti. At the moment, they are our leading pack. Right-hand side of your screen, left-hand side of your screen, the leader in Category 1, 300 metres separating the lead of Category 1 from the lead of Category 2. Mary Kate McCarthy soloing away on the front of the race. Her target time of 16 minutes 50 on this climb could well be a target that is definitely achievable. The pace and the power, the form that Mary Kate McCarthy has got at the moment means that that course record could well and truly be smashed here today, along with the rest of this race route. The Canberra climb record that has stood since July. It is one of our regular race routes over the last few years, but of course with more and more worlds, more and more routes on MyWhoosh, lots more chances to jump on board, to get that training in, to jump in with a training session. And with the live coaches or the video on demand, you can catch up with Emma and a whole host of great coaches on there. Don't forget, of course, we are in the run-up to Christmas in December. And in the run-up to Christmas, there's a 2-week training plan coming your direction. You can sign up for on MyWhoosh. And from the 9th to the 15th and the 16th to the 22nd, dedicated training plan to make you go faster so that you can get your 300 kilometres in between the 25th of December, that's Christmas Day, and the New Year. And that can get you enough of the gems, enough of the rewards on MyWhoosh to get you a season pass with lots of great goodies to equip your bike, your virtual bike, to make it look like maybe you're one in real life, or maybe you've got an aspiration for a pink Colnago. You can equip your bike with that. But jump on board, get training, get riding, jump on board and race, and jump on board and be inspired by these amazing riders. Gabby Guerra, Kate McCarthy on your screens. That is the pursuit of Guerra, of McCarthy. Fantastic riders, great performances, but you could be there too.
Oh, the rider's coming towards the top of the climb now, the Canberra climb, and it's all four categories coming towards the top. And you can see Guerra moving her way through that category 2 pack on the right hand side of your screen. McCarthy a little bit further up the climb, around 100 meters up the road. She's now working her way into the top 30 on the road, heading that category 1 race. And in fact, she's very, very shortly going to see Angie Arias and Bridget Bremner from category 4, the riders who started 15 minutes in front of her.
Those time gaps tumble as the riders are on the climb. Here, the Canberra climb, this big climb that kicks off from 15.3k summits at 20.7k. And that is where Stefani Piccolo is headed. She's got a 16-second gap now. The distance doesn't look huge. That's because the riders are on the climb. 16 seconds on the descent is huge. That's a massive distance. Can she hold that time gap over the top behind her?
Well,
that is a big chasing group.
It's a group. She's got 5 riders behind her. And for me, well, how much of a gap do you need going over the top for a pack of 5 not to catch you?
And you've got Daniels, Van Rossum, Alta Marina, Bonilla, and Vasquez in there. They are 5 very strong riders. Piccolo, though, doing the damage. He's going to make those riders chase. And the other thing is she could be riding, if she's comfy here and she's moving at a good pace that she's happy with, she could be putting in an effort here, which actually is just as easy for her to go off the front like this as it is to sit in the group. It will be expending more energy, but it's her natural rhythm.
Well, and that is it, isn't it? Climbing at your natural rhythm. But with 18 seconds, I'm going to really question the next 15 kilometres of this race, because I think that gap is not long enough.
You need a bigger gap to stay clear,
I think she needs a bigger gap to stay clear, because I think what we're watching behind is Gabby Nordin, Sophie Giovanni, Hannah Giannatti, and Dorothy Gonzalez Rua of category 2. They're climbing strongly. They are not that far behind. And when the category 2 and category 1 riders start to sweep through towards the finish, they're going to sweep up the riders in 8th, 9th, and 10th in category 3. And I think they're likely to be able to stay with them and move back to form a bigger bunch. And it's going to get very, very close.
So the ability to jump onto a group of riders is made easier. You need less of an effort to do that on a downhill where you've got the advantage of having more draft. It is all about power to weight and pure power when you're on a climb, when you're in a sprint. So absolutely key. Now, we can see Mary Kate McCarthy siding through the bunch, just gone past Nordin Giovanni Giannatti, the leaders in category 2, just coming up onto the category 4 riders. So the category 3 leaders, though, are over the top. Piccolo's gap at the top is 21 seconds at the top of the climb. Is it enough? Well, we will have to see. I'm shaking the head on the other side of the studio here. Always good for the radio or for commentary with our camera. Category. So, okay, let's go back to category 1. So the leader, Kate McCarthy, at the moment, she's ahead of Gabby Guerra. The distance between those two riders, well, it's about 200 meters or so. And that is substantial. Will that be enough? Because we've got Guerra on her own. Behind Guerra, you've got Bruni at 35 seconds. The gap, though, between Guerra and McCarthy has really well and truly gone out here. And I think at the moment, with the form that McCarthy's on, with the form that Guerra's on, surely both those riders have got to be feeling pretty secure in those positions. McCarthy on her way to the top of the climb. She's going to be our first rider through there in terms of time through the segment, the fastest time on that segment. She came in the last group of leaders. She's come up absolutely flying up there.
Can I just say, she's flown up there so quickly. She's worked her way through the entirety of the race field, other than the first 7 riders in the category 3 race.
absolutely phenomenal race performance on the way up there, and we'll have a look at those times. We're going to get a few more of those riders in through before that leaderboard comes up. Gabby Guerra here is going to set the second fastest time, but you can tell by the amount of time that clock is continuing to tick from when McCarthy came through to Guerra hitting that line. The gap has gone out, and Guerra, while she has got the measure of the rest of the group, McCarthy, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen that horseshoe turn at the top.
She's flying downhill.
She's already descending. She's opening the gap. The distance is increasing. That's simple physics. On the way down, going faster, same time gap, bigger distance.
Well, that's it. And the distance is really extending. And she's got herself into the group of the Category 3 leaders. And they are sitting with her on that descent and extending their lead over the chasers in that Category 3 race. This is going to get really, really interesting, this last 14 kilometres now, because they descend off of the Canberra climb. They head through the Canberra sprint, but it is pretty much a flat run to the finish line. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now. We're watching Mel Bruni come up and underneath the polka dot banner at the top of the Canberra climb. Anna Svardström is going to be the next rider we see go through, but she's in Category 2. McCarthy, well, these are the riders ahead of her. It's the leading group in Category 3. It's a big pack, you know. Daniels, Bonilla, Altamirano, Van Rossum, Barragan and Bergin. Bergin, in fact, is going to be the rider who sees McCarthy first. Can Bergin jump onto McCarthy's wheel and get a tow back to the group ahead? That is going to be an interesting question.
So as these groups all now have to work out their tactics for the next 14.3K that runs from the summit to the finishing line. Remember, this is a big downhill. It's pretty much the same length down as it is up. Different profile, consistently down. Very few pauses on the way down there. 5.5K down, then you're into that run into the finish, which is relatively flat. McCarthy tucked in that super low position, saving energy.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because the gap that she got on Guerra has allowed her to do that, and her heart rate 117. It has dropped like a stone on this descent because she has just used the entire descent for recovery.
And compare that to the heart rate of Gabby Guerra here, who's on that descent, but he's pushing to chase back, doing 5.5 watts per kilo. Heart rate 177. Now, yes, it's individual, but it's dropping and then rising and dropping and rising. She's doing this work to try and pull this back. She's got the advantage, though. If she works now, my thoughts are you work on this downhill because you've got riders who are giving you draft. They may not be in the same category, but on the downhill, when this group is together, once they get clear, once they've caught all those riders, that opportunity for draft has gone, and it won't be as big when you're on the flat.
Well, let me just tell you, because I've got the riders coming up over the top of the climb. So McCarthy set the fastest time in Category 1, then Guerra, then Bruni. Fourth fastest time in Category 1, Francesca Tomasi. Faster than Kristen Kolczynski, Nelly Larson, Kelsey Jade Van Shaw, Amelia Van Hove. Now, I said she was class and she's going to start making her mark on the Sunday Race Club. Could today be the day for a top 5?
Yes. There you are. Why not? Let's put a prediction out there. First one of the day. Well, or maybe not, because I think there was a it's not big enough gap at the front for Piccolo. That was the prediction by Emma. We will see as we go down in with Mary Kate McCarthy here in that polka dot skin suit. Remember, the points are allocated on the climb segments. There's only one climb segment today, which means that those riders wearing those polka dot skin suits, that's Hannah Gianatti in Category 2. It's Mary Kate McCarthy in Category 1, for example. They will retain those to the finish. There's no more climb segments to be done today. The green sprint segments, where the green points for sprinting are allocated in that green skin suit for the leader in that competition. Well, there are 2 sprints, so there is the chance to get more sprint points, and that's at the Canberra sprint. Piccolo, the polka dots wearing skin suit rider in the lead in Category 3, holding 16 seconds at the moment. She is at the moment at 27 kilometers and still looking smooth out
Yeah.
of the saddle, kicking that round. Nice pedal cadence, 78 revs per minute. 18 seconds is the gap back to Van Rossum. The group are behind and they can see her. And this is where you want to be, to use a very well used phrase that is well used for a reason, out of sight and out of mind. If you aren't gone out of sight, you've got a chance to stay clear. At the moment, that is not happening for Piccolo. Every time they get straight, they can see her. It's tempting them on.
Well, and 8 kilometres still to go in this race. It's still some time. And Gina Van Rossum, she knows what it takes to win the Sunday Race Cup. Gemma Daniels, Kim Bonilla, Angelica Altamirano, Manuela Vasquez. Those are the riders in this group. And it's going to become a real battle because there are 5 riders in the chase group and 1 rider down the road.
And let's just talk for a moment what these riders do. Because if these riders are chasing Emma, we've got the leaders potentially and the winners in this group if they get Piccolo back, but they've got to work to bring her back. And yet, at the same time, they will want to have the most strength and the most speed and the most snap and the most resilience when it comes to the final few hundred meters for that, if it does come down to a sprint. So they've got to balance working with resting. And if you've got a rider in there that's not doing any work, that will disrupt it. And that has got to be the hope, not only of Stefani Piccolo in front, that there's some agitation, there's some lack of cooperation in that group, but also the riders that are chasing behind.
Oh, yeah, that is indeed correct. I'm just taking a little look here. And in qualifier 3 in June, when the women were on the Australian outer loop, 1.7 of a second separated the top 5 riders in category 2. 2 seconds separated the top 3 riders in category 3. You know, it could well be lining up for a sprint fest to decide this race today.
It certainly can in category. I think I'm really looking forward to that. One rider who's not leaving it to a chance is the rider that's just gone past Holly Bergin. It's the world champion, Mary Kate McCarthy, with the yellow cap, the skin suit, resplendent in those red polka dots. Absolutely flying here. Gabby Guerra is behind and still chasing. At the moment, though, 300 plus nearly 400 meters separated.
Yeah, but I can tell you that gap nearly went out to a kilometre at one point. So Guerra doing a sterling job of bringing the gap back down.
And at the moment, you can see Gabby Guerra where she is on that course, 4.7 watts per kilo. McCarthy, 4.5. But it's yo-yoing up and down. It's fluctuating dependent on the terrain. And this is going to be telling the gap. It's 42 seconds. 42 seconds at the moment. We are racing to 35 kilometers. That is basically another 7K down the road from our race leader. And that's a big gap. It's going to take a major mistake by McCarthy and a great performance by Guerra, but it's not impossible. We see stranger things happening in cycle racing. That's what we love about it in all its disciplines.
Well, I'll tell you something that is quite impressive, and that's Holly Bergin.
Yeah.
Not long ago, she was with Claudia Hyde, 6 seconds back, but she's put in a huge dig to try and get back with McCarthy and get into McCarthy's draft, because McCarthy is moving forward and Rosalina Barragan is 14 seconds up the road. Phenomenal catch by Bergin. If she can stay in this draft, and that's it, she's now just tucked in beautifully. Her numbers have gone green. She's in the draft. She needs to sit there. It's going to be hard work, but there could be huge reward.
Well, Holly Bergin be crowned the Queen of Yorkshire as she comes in through. That's her moniker. Don't forget to give Holly a follow. She has actually got her own Twitch channel up and running as well, so you can give her a shout. But at the moment, she's putting in the work. She won't be answering anything, any message you're doing, any social media, that's for sure. The only thing she's focused on is that back wheel of McCarthy. And that's on the left-hand side of your screen. Front of your screen, and this is the escape by Stefani Piccolo, who has got 21 seconds. Come on, Stefani. This is what we like to see.
It was 18.
She's gone for it. She's in that position. She's gone clear. You've got to kind of run with it now. This is where you're at. You might as well keep on going. Keep pushing. Keep on kicking on.
Yeah, well, she had 18 seconds at the top of the climb, and she's extended that now. It's just fluctuating between 18 and 20 seconds, but she's holding it and holding it really well. Gina Van Rossum coming to the fore of the group behind with Gemma Daniels, those 2 riders pushing on and really trying to bring the gap back. And, you know, I'm looking at the distance at the moment. They've got 5.3 kilometres to go, but the gap is being held. And it's been held like that for 9K. So if we think about the numbers and we think about the distance left in the race, Piccolo could do this.
She could.
The question, I think, really is what happens if or when McCarthy catches this group.
And this comes back to that point I made earlier. There are 5 riders chasing 1. That's 6 riders and 5 prizes. And that is why I think we're seeing this disruption, this lack of cohesion, this lack of cooperation in the group to chase properly and to work together. Now, Barragan being passed by McCarthy, Bergin, then Hyde, then it's Guerra behind. The next rider in category 1, they're chasing hard. McCarthy has worked her way up into 7th place overall on the race field. Remember, that's across all of our race categories. That's positional number to the left of the rider's name. So McCarthy at the moment leading category 1 in 7th place overall on the road. And at the moment, looking as strong as ever, 6.3 watts per kilo being kicked out, and that translates to over 350 watts on the road at 30k covered.
Well, she's 400 metres clear of Gabby Guerra, the rider in 2nd place in category 1, who's worked her way up into 10th place on the road. She's going to see Bergin next and then Barragan ahead of her. And, she really is closing it down as well. The question is, will McCarthy close this down to the finish line and be the first rider over the line today?
Guerra got it back to 35 seconds. It's coming down, but
Yeah,
it's not coming down quite quick enough. It needs to come down a bit more for her to get back, but it could still change. Piccolo on the way with the gap, 25 seconds from Piccolo in 1st place on the road to the 2nd place rider, currently Gemma Daniels, leading this group of category 3 riders as they go through the Canberra sprint that starts at 31 kilometres, finishes at 31.3, that 300-metre sprint marker. Piccolo adding the green skin suit of sprint leader to the polka dot skin suit of climb winner, because there's no more climbs to come, and I don't think anybody's going to bust that time that she put in up that climb. The sprints could change if there's a faster time come through, so we'll just reserve judgment on that one. Will she add that yellow skin suit? Meanwhile,
she's on the hunt.
Mary-Kate McCarthy is absolutely, I mean, it's, if you were off the front and you have Mary-Kate McCarthy coming behind you, chasing you, you would be worried. The fact she's on the front and leaving riders behind and working her way through the rest of the packs, it's got to be inspirational.
It was also really interesting and smart riding today, because she worked really, really hard on that 5.4 kilometre climb. And then on the descent, she pretty much got into a super tuck position and rested the entire descent, knowing that she still had around 9 kilometres of racing to go, of which she has just got into time trial mode. So McCarthy now coming through past the chase group in category 3, and this is now getting interesting because Van Rossum and Daniels have tried to jump on the back wheel of McCarthy, because Piccolo is 20 seconds down the road. She is leading that category 3 race, and the entirety of this category 3 chase pack, all 6 riders now tucked in on McCarthy's wheel, and it is going to be attrition now. Who can stay here? Who can dig? Who can hold the longest? Because I tell you what, they're going to try. Whether anybody is able is going to be another matter.
The possibilities, the probabilities, the certainties, and straight racing. Gotta love it here on the Sunday Race Club. Please remember, download the app, download the platform on iOS, on Android, on Windows. Jump on board, whether you run on an iPad or an iPhone and you put it up onto a big screen, whether you project it out, however you jump on board. I was out and riding, had a great ride, got it handed to me yesterday on the bike. It was a pretty tough day out there on MyWhoosh, but you know what, really enjoyed it. It was great to see everybody, and thank you, Kevin, for dropping me. And a big thank you to Toei, who gave me a tow.
Well, I'll tell you something. If you can't race Sundays, you can always race Saturdays. And the Echelon Racing League taking place over December and January on Saturdays. So something for everybody over the weekend.
And coming up after that, even more great racing. Tour de Monde is coming up. Big stage race coming your direction.
That's in January.
It is in January. Lots of time zones. Don't forget the 300k between Christmas and New Year coming up. The training plans, the training, live training with Emma, which is at 12:30 on Monday.
It is indeed.
UK time.
12:30 UK time. But I'll tell you something that's more important than that at the moment, and that's Mary-Kate McCarthy coming up with Stefani Piccolo's wheel. And I'll tell you something, she's going to go straight past Piccolo with 2 kilometres to go. So McCarthy makes the catch to Stefani Piccolo. She's leading the Category 3 race. She's at the head of the race, but McCarthy takes it up. McCarthy leading Category 1, leading the Sunday Race Club now. And I'll tell you what is going on behind, because Gina Van Rossum, Manuela Vasquez and Kim Bonilla, the charge behind is getting closer. It was at 20 seconds. It's now at around 11 seconds to Stefani Piccolo, the leader in that Category 3 race.
And we've also got Gabby Guerra chasing behind and able to stay on Guerra's wheel, where they weren't able to stay for as long on McCarthy's wheel, is Bergin and Barragan, who could upset the apple cart if they make it back to that group. If they can stay with Guerra, you can see their chevrons going red on the right-hand side of your screen. Gabby Guerra giving us a wave on screen as well at the same time. Now, I wish I had the ability to be able to do those waves as you're riding. Never mind racing at the front of the Sunday Race Club. Amazing performances by our riders in all of our race categories.
Well, Bergin and Barragan, part of the La Rosa Blanca squad, who finished second in the women's final in November on the Paso Alto, just 30 seconds back from the weekend warriors. So strong riders, trying to jump on Guerra's wheel, and Bergin now just dropping off the bat with Barragan as Guerra starts to pull away from those Category 3 riders and substantiate herself well and truly in the top 10 overall on the road.
So McCarthy absolutely riding strong at the moment. Piccolo behind her. McCarthy looking like surely she's got this started with 700 meters to go. Behind her, the Category 3 race is absolutely intriguing as the gap comes down between the leader Piccolo, the chasing group Daniels, Vasquez, Van Rossum, Altamirano and Bonilla. Then Guerra, the chaser in Category 1, has also got chasers in Category 3. So it's going to be odd numbers finishing first, Categories 1 and 3, followed by the even numbered Categories 2 and 4. The finishing line is around the left-hand turn. This is a long straight. Mary-Kate McCarthy can enjoy every single pedal stroke down this straight and in and round the turn towards the finish, because the world champion is on such form that she can ride them off her wheel on the climb and stay clear to the finish. Mary-Kate McCarthy from New Zealand will be racing, I'm sure, in that world champions jersey today. She takes victory in qualifier race number 2. Mary-Kate McCarthy, your Category 1 and race winner.
Oh, she does indeed, as the confetti goes through the air. But we're watching Kim Bonilla here and Stefani Piccolo.
Piccolo's going to come to the line. She's held them off. She's done it. Piccolo goes over the line as the winner in Category 3. Kim Bonilla almost gets her back and goes through the line just ahead of a speedy Gina Van Rossum, who comes through for third. We're going to have to confirm 4th and 5th places in Category 3. It was Piccolo who just held on to take victory, though, from Bonilla, from Van Rossum. That's your 1, 2, 3. Vasquez and Altamirano are the riders in 4th and 5th place, with Gemma Daniels in 6th position. On your screens now, though, it's Gabby Guerra. It's going to be a 2nd place here today for the rider who makes her way in, riding in America, coming from Brazil. Gabby Guerra, 2nd in Category 1. Not all that far behind. Well, you can see the leaders here in Category 2. You've got Gianatti in the polka dot skin suit. You've got Nordin Giovanni. You've got Vittori in here. This is going to come down to a sprint, and it's going to be a messy sprint because there's a lot of riders from Category 3 in the mix as well. This is about timing. Here we go. We are in with Nordin at the moment. Nordin was riding so well last week. Can she repeat this week? She's gone early. She's gone hard. She's got at 9.5 watts a kilo, now nearly 10. This is the push, and she's opened clean air between her and the chasers behind. Vittori's the nearest rider, but she's not going to touch it to the finish. Gabby Nordin, she's done it again. What a win in Category 2. Nordin is back in style, ahead of Vittori, who comes through immediately behind. What a ride. Nordin, Vittori, Giovanni Giannatti as they came in over the line in Category 2.
It was amazing racing. Well, Kate McCarthy takes the win today, 57 minutes, 53 seconds. Oh, I'm having a look. I think that could possibly be the fastest time on the course by 4 seconds. But, well, I shall have to report back next week. Gabby Guerra, 48 seconds back in second place, 1 minute 54. Merle Bruni in third in that Category 1 race. Gabby Nordin taking the win in Category 2 from Serena Vittori, Giovanni Giannatti, and Gonzalez Rua coming through in fifth. In that Category 3 race, it was Stefani Piccolo from Kim Bonilla, Van Rossum, Vasquez, Altamirano, and Daniels.
Incredible racing here in Australia on the outer loop on MyWhoosh. What a race. Interesting as these riders come through. Francesca Tomasi, who has a new fangirl in the shape of Emma Martin here in the studio of the Effetto Skier squad, coming through to take away fourth place, taking that top five as predicted by Emma. I think that is a good prediction. I'll tell you something. How long will it be before Tomasi is taking on McCarthy, Guerra, and Bruni just that further down the road? Brilliant racing, brilliant riding. You can join our riders. Make sure you download the app, jump on board, get that training plan done that will take you right the way through from December the 9th, right the way through to December the 22nd, ready to get your kilometres in. And don't forget, of course, that the more kilometres you get in on MyWhoosh, the more points you earn. And that includes when you go training on the live training sessions where you can catch Emma. Do follow Emma. It's at biking_Emma for all things Emma Martin. You can, you can catch up with me. It's at Matt Fixer Payne on Instagram and on Facebook as well. You can see him on your screens coming up now. Don't forget, give MyWhoosh a follow. It's at MyWhoosh on Instagram, on Facebook, and at my_whoosh on X if you use that platform. More results coming in hot off the presses, Emma.
Natalia Idzik takes the win in Category 4 from Alzat Sonesson Lopez.
It doesn't get more hot off the presses than that. We are going to be hot off the presses for the men's race very shortly. In the meantime, we're going to let the ink cool on the women's race. The full results will be confirmed in due course on mywhoosh.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you give it a like. Please do share the coverage around. It really makes a big difference to us, to MyWhoosh, and all of our riders. An absolute pleasure putting words to the action. Absolute pleasure working with the team behind the scenes at MyWhoosh as always. We will be back very shortly for the men's race. In the meantime, stay safe. We'll see you again soon.
Goodbye.